Thank you. I'll start recording and share my screen. I have just now sent you through email the notes. For some reason, the notes section, file section for this particular class is not working for me. I have to check it. It was working for my other class where I could upload the files. Here I tried to upload the files many times. I could not do it. So I have sent the files that we have discussed till now through email. Please check whether everyone of you have got them or not. Okay, so I just sent it to the group emails. Means even for the BTech students also, your group emails. So I'm going to share my screen. So by the way, I hope all of you are okay. In our campus, actually now we have lot of cases. If you don't know, it started with 5 cases, and now we have again 5 more cases today also. Like yesterday, 5 more cases got confirmed in the staff quarters of coronavirus. So please stay safe in your home.
So it means that our chance of coming campus is less this year.
At least for now, I am not sure for the next semester. My guess is that at least, or not guess, means most probably, this entire semester is supposed to be online. Okay, this entire semester is supposed to be online. I think the exams are in December, mid-December or something like that. So after that, a decision will be taken. So I think results will be out in January. So after that, a decision will be taken on based on this situation. I don't know about the lab component. I guess it is going on in online mode, but I'm not sure about some part of the lab whether it will be done here or not. Last year, actually, students had to manage with only online mode, which is not ideal for the lab classes. So I'm not sure. For our theory classes, it is okay. Only problem is that the online exams, which are not useful. So, but if there is no other option, we also have to do like that.
Sir, about the recorded lectures, like
Yes. No, I have to manage some time to send it. Could you download yourself? You are not able to download, is it? Or are you able to download? Have you checked?
sir, we are able to download, but the files are too big.
The same thing will happen in my case also. Means when I send you the link, the files will be means that issue is there, right? If you want to see the video lectures, you will need some data.
Sir, you could upload it in YouTube, then they can stream it online.
You can obviously stream it online, but I will do it. I will upload in YouTube, but still you will require data for watching in YouTube.
But that will be lesser than downloading, sir.
Okay, because the file sizes are not so large. Whatever I have downloaded till now, I guess the file sizes are not so large. Okay. How much is this? 1 hour lecture is around 150 MB only, quite optimized. 2 hours are around 200-300 MB. But anyway, I will upload because you can then see at lower resolutions also. This is from the previous class. So I have the videos downloaded. I will upload them. Just I am waiting, like not waiting basically, could not prioritize this over other works. So I should create an account. Don't want to do it from my official account. because officially I don't know what is the institute policy on this. Better to do it from another account. So how much we had discussed? I think we were discussing about, so we were towards the end of this simple Brayton cycle. I will just quickly once recap. Okay. So we were discussing about standard Brayton cycle, which is the most basic cycle for gas turbine applications. And we have discussed that typically the actual gas turbines, not typically means for all cases in gas turbines, because the working fluid is air at the inlet and it is available in unlimited quantity. The cycles are open cycles, not closed cycles, because you just bring in more and more air and use it for combusting the fuel and then pass the hot mixture to the turbine for expansion and get work out of the turbine. Then depending on the type of the gas turbine, we either design the turbine in such a way so that the full work is required for running the compressor. So in that case, the only requirement of turbine is running the compressor, and rest of the fluid also has lot of enthalpy after the turbine, which is used in the nozzle for generating velocity and used for jet propulsion purpose. And we have discussed that for industrial gas turbines, the turbines are larger in size, so that only part of the work is used up by the compressor. Rest of the work is transferred by the same shaft to a generator and used for generating power. And to study this cycle, actually we close this cycle, this 4-to-1 point, using a heat exchanger. Basically, the pressure at 4 and pressure at 1 are same. Both are at atmospheric pressure. Okay, at the local atmospheric pressure, at the point where the engine is operating. So for closing the cycle, the only difference at 4 and 1 is that the temperature at 4 is quite high as compared to 1. So if you have an artificial heat transfer process here, you can close the cycle. So as a result, we close the cycle using a heat exchanger artificially. So that as if the temperature goes down from 4 to 1. Okay. And after closing the cycle, the 4 processes, if we put them together, gives us the standard Brayton cycle. That also we have discussed. And this is how the standard Brayton cycle looks like. We have 4 processes, 2 isentropic processes, 1 to 2, which is the compression in the compressor. 3 to 4 is the isentropic expansion in the turbine. And 2 constant pressure processes. From 2 to 3, we have the constant pressure heat addition, which occurs in the combustion chamber or burner. And from 4 to 1 is the constant pressure heat removal, which occurs in the heat exchanger. Okay. If it is an open cycle, we will only have 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and 3 to 4. And this cycle will stop there. This 4 point, as you can see, is much above the point 1, which means that it has a higher temperature, although they are on the same constant pressure line. Okay. These 2 lines are the constant pressure lines. Same thing can be drawn in the PV diagram also, and we have seen how it looks like. So 1 to 2 isentropic process, isentropic compression, pressure goes down. This is an isentropic line. 2 to 3 is a constant pressure line. So pressure remains same. Because the temperature increases, the volume also increases proportionally. And from 3 to 4 is isentropic expansion, and 4 to 1 is again constant pressure heat removal. Again, because the pressure remains same, but the temperature changes, the specific volume also changes proportionally, because PV is proportional to RT. Okay, and we have seen that how to calculate the net work output. These are very trivial. You all of you have done in your previous courses. So just to get you a start, we are going through this again. So W net is W turbine, work output of turbine, minus work output of compressor. Using for ideal gas, assuming constant Cp, we can write in this form: Cp T3 minus T4 minus Cp T2 minus T1. Okay. Please remember that there may be a lag between my voice and between the cursor movement that you see on your screen. there is sometimes a big lag also. So I may be showing somewhere in the screen, but you may see something else. Okay, so you have to bear with that. So then we have shown the calculated the efficiency, where efficiency is W net by Q in, very standard definition. You have, all of you have used this in thermodynamics for any heat cycle. This is the definition, and by suitable simplification, we found that ultimately the efficiency can be written only in terms of the pressure ratio R, where R is P2 by P1. Okay, so pressure across the compressor, and this is same as P3 by P4, the pressure ratio across the turbine. So remember, we are studying shaft power cycles till like right now, shaft power cycles or industrial gas turbines. So the pressure ratio across the turbine is same as pressure ratio across the compressor. This will not be the case for jet engines when we study later. The compressor pressure ratio will be higher, turbine pressure ratio will be lower because the entire expansion will not be done in the turbine. Some of the expansion will be done in the nozzle. But in this case, both the pressure ratios are same for the compressor and the turbine. And the temperature ratio across these devices, compressor and turbine, are given by R to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma. As a result, finally, you can do some simplification, and we have seen that the efficiency is 1 minus R to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma. Okay. So for a given fluid for which the gamma is constant, the efficiency increases with R starting from a value of 0 at a pressure ratio of 1. Obviously, at a pressure ratio of 1, what happens? Pressure ratio of 1 means that there is no difference between 1 and 2. There is no compression. So basically, there is no cycle at all. So no work output. Okay. And from there, it keeps on increasing. And slowly, it increases very slowly. For very large values of R, it will go towards 1, but still it will increase very slowly. Okay. It can never reach 1, of course, that is true. And typical values of R nowadays are around 20. Initial gas turbines had very low pressure ratios. Initial like jet propulsion engines had 2, 3, 4 like that. But nowadays, typically, it can go much higher. And we have seen towards the end of the previous class also that the second important parameter for analyzing the cycle is the non-dimensional net specific work output. Non-dimensional, why? Because we are dividing the work by similar quantity CPT1 in inlet enthalpy. So it makes this non-dimensional. And net work output, because it is the net work, turbine work minus compressor work, and specific work output because it is per unit mass flow rate. Okay, so it is non-dimensional net specific work output. So this we have seen that we can write it as a relation which looks like this: T1 minus 1 by C minus C minus 1, where T is the temperature ratio. T is known as the temperature ratio. T3 by T1. Again, I will go back to the cycle. T3 is the maximum temperature in the cycle. T1 is the minimum temperature in the cycle. Okay. Why this ratio is important? Because these 2 points are fixed. T1 is fixed by the atmospheric conditions or the inlet conditions. You cannot change those conditions. Okay. Wherever you are operating the condition, T1 is fixed. And T3 is fixed by the designers based on the turbine material. So as a result, this temperature ratio is a known quantity for design. Similarly, C is a known quantity. C is nothing but R to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma. Okay. Because this term occurs very often, we can write that as C also. C also has a meaning. C is also a temperature. C is also a sort of temperature ratio. What is that C? So R to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma is T2 by T1. So C is the temperature ratio across the compressor. C is also the temperature ratio across the turbine. Okay. T3 by T4 is also equal to C. So these things we have discussed. So to summarize, for any of these cycles that we are going to study, we have two important parameters to analyze. One is the efficiency. Higher efficiency obviously means that it will be less means running cost will be less, obviously, because you will need less amount of fuel for generating the same power. Okay. Second important parameter is net specific work output. We can study that in non-dimensional form. This is important because if this is low, okay, keeping the efficiency same, or for similar efficiency, if this is high, sorry, if you have more specific work output, you need less mass flow rate of air for generating the same amount of total power. Okay, if the specific work output is more, for the same total work output, you will need less mass flow rate, and as a result, because all the components scale with the mass flow rate of air, all the component sizes will be much reduced, like the compressor's diameter, turbine diameter, everything will be reduced, combustion chamber sizes, and it will be lightweight. This is very important for jet application, means jet propulsion cycles, because weight becomes very important criteria in aviation. Okay, so you want to reduce the weight as much as possible. And we have seen that this net specific work output varies with R and T, both R and T, as can be seen here. So it increases with a value of R and then again goes back to 0 after some time. Similarly for all the other cases, but for higher values of T, it does not go down drastically. It increases slowly and then also slightly goes down, but it takes a lot of time for that to occur. Okay, even for higher values of T, the work output is more, obviously, because if you have more temperature ratio, you have a larger cycle or larger area enclosed by the cycle, as you can see here. So if T3 is higher, you will have a larger volume enclosed by the cycle for the same pressure ratio. So I hope up to this point everything was clear in the previous class. We have also seen one example calculation that at what point this net work output goes to 0 for the T equal to 2 case, and we found that this happens when R is equal to 11.31. And remember that for R equal to 1, anyway it is 0 because the work output is 0 at that point. Okay, the cycle does not exist. So then we had seen one case graphically. We had seen that if R is very small, keeping T fixed, so T fixed means, small t fixed means T3 by T1 is fixed, and for a particular T1, then T3 is also fixed. So these two dashed lines shows that T1 and T3 are fixed. Okay, so by keeping T fixed, if we vary R, okay, we let us start with a very small value of R. If the value of R is very small, it means that the pressure ratio is very small. It means T2 is very near to T1. So this T1 to T2 line is very small, as shown here by the blue line. It may not be very clear. Then we have a long, very long heat addition process, constant pressure heat addition, because we have to go till T3 temperature. Okay, so from T2 to T3 is a very long distance. And again, the pressure ratio across the turbine is very small because R is very small. So small pressure ratio across the turbine. And then again, a very large heat rejection process. So this is the shape at R equal to R very near to 0 or very small value of R. Okay, and you can see from this cycle area actually gives us the net work output, net heat addition, which is also equal to net work output. You can see that the work output, net work output will be quite low. Okay, and in the limit that R goes to 0, we will see that T1 and T2 coincides and the cycle basically becomes just like a line. Okay, so you don't have any work output. If you keep on increasing the value of R, what happens? Then T2 increases. value of R increases means T2 by T1 increases. So T2 point increases, and at an intermediate value of R, we have seen that it looks like what is shown by the pink line here. Okay, this squarish, not squarish, means it's more like a box shape process here, and you can see that the area enclosed by this cycle is quite large. Okay, in this case, the area enclosed by the cycle is quite large. So if you still keep on increasing the value of R to a very high value, it is shown here by the red line. Okay, now T2 is very near to T3. So compression, during compression, the temperature rise is quite high, and you have a very small heat addition process because T2 is very near to T3, and then again a very large expansion process and a small heat rejection process. So again the work output, net work output decreases, area of the cycle decreases, and if you keep on increasing R at some value of R, T2 will become equal to T3. At that point there cannot be any heat addition, so it will become, the cycle will become just like a line. So T2 and T3 will coincide, and the compression process and the expansion process will coincide, just it will go up and go down. So basically you will have zero net work output. That is what happened for R equal to 11.31 for this T equal to 2 case. Okay, but the efficiency will not be zero. You cannot calculate the efficiency directly. We know that at higher R the efficiency keeps on increasing. Okay, but it cannot be defined in that case. Till that point we had discussed. So any questions up to this point from the previous class? So we will continue. So I have written here for fixed value of T1 and T3, there is an optimum value of R for which the net work output is maximum. Okay. So fixing the value of T1 and small t, which is equal to the temperature ratio T3 by T1. Remember that arbitrarily we are not fixing. These are physical meanings. T1 is not under our control. It is based on atmospheric conditions, and T3 is a design parameter. Okay. So if we want to find out what is the optimum value of C or what is the optimum value of R for which we get the maximum work output, so what we can do is we can differentiate this non-dimensional work output with respect to R, okay, and equate it to 0. So ddr of W net by CPT1 equal to 0 for maximum work output. So maximum work output for a particular value of R also means that maximum work output for a particular value of C, because C scales according to the value of R. Okay. So if we differentiate just with respect to C and equate this value to 0, then we will get the value of C for which we get the maximum work output. Okay. So you have to differentiate this quantity with respect to C, assuming that T is constant. And if you do that, you will see that so first term goes to 0. Second term, if minus T by C, you are differentiating in respect to C, you get this term minus T, minus of 1 by C square. Third term you get minus 1, and the final term is 0, constant. So you get this equation, T by C square minus 1 equal to 0, from which you get C is equal to root over T. Okay, C is equal to root over T, and remembering that C is R to the power gamma by gamma minus 1, we can write that R is equal to T3 by T1 to the power gamma by 2 gamma minus 1. Okay, so this is the optimum value of pressure ratio for which we get the maximum work output. Okay, this is the optimum value of pressure ratio for which we get the maximum work output. The physical meaning of this will be clear if we try to find out what is the optimum temperature instead of optimum pressure. So remember that C is equal to root T, or C square is equal to T. Okay. So what is C? C is the temperature ratio T2 by T1, right? If I just go back, C is T2 by T1. T2 by T1 is R to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma, which is equal to C. Similarly, C is also equal to T3 by T4. So temperature ratio across the compressor and temperature ratio across the turbine, both are C, both are equal to C. Okay. So I am coming back to this expression. So C square we can write as T2 by T1 into T3 by T4. Okay. So one C as T2 by T1, another C as T3 by T4. And small t is the temperature ratio, which is T3 by T1. Okay. And if you cancel out T3 and T1, you are left with T2 equal to T4. Okay. So at optimum condition, optimum in terms of maximizing the work output, we'll see that the maximum work output occurs when T2 is equal to T4. This point and this point are at the same height. Okay. If we go back to the cycle TS diagram. So if this 0.2 and 0.4 are at the same height, means at the same temperature, you get the maximum work output from this cycle for a given value of T. Okay. So also it means that from this where is it? No, it's fine. Okay. So this is like, it does not mean that we have to operate at this point, because efficiency is also important, and efficiency at this point is not maximum, remember, because efficiency will increase with increasing value of R. But if we want to maximize the work output, we have to go with this condition. Okay. So any questions up to this? So this is just about the simple cycle. Then we will go with some modification of the cycle. Okay, some modification of the simple gas turbine cycle, which also is called as Brayton cycle. Okay, which was called as Brayton cycle. So first modification is that regeneration. So we want to increase two things. One is the efficiency of the cycle. Second is the work output, net work output from the cycle, net specific work output. Okay, net specific work output from the cycle. These are the two things that we want to increase. So regeneration is a process which can be used for increasing the efficiency. It will not help in increasing the work output, but it can cause an increase in the efficiency. Then we will see that we have two other processes which are known as reheating and intercooling. So using a reheater or an intercooler helps us in increasing the work output, but at the cost of efficiency. They will lower the efficiency, but increase the work output. And then if we combine a regenerator and a heat, like a intercooler and or reheater, then we can get both increase in efficiency as well as increase in net specific work output. So we will come to these things one by one. So let us start with the first cycle. Okay, which is gas turbine, which is Brayton cycle with regeneration. So in this case, how this component diagram looks like. So these diagrams we call as component diagrams, which shows the arrangement of the components. Remember, we know how to draw the compressor and turbine. We have discussed in the previous class. This is the standard format. Compressor shows like a triangular shape. Not exactly a triangle, but the area goes down and the opposite occurs in turbine. This is to represent that for compression, the area goes down and specific volume goes down, compression happens. For a turbine, the area goes up and specific volume increases, expansion happens. Okay. Combustion chamber, there is no specific way to denote. Sometimes we denote by square or a circle is fine. Okay. This is a heat exchanger. So the main difference in this case as compared to the previous case is that, so first part is same. Again, you go from 1 to 2 in the compressor. Okay. So now instead of passing this compressed air to the combustion chamber, you pass it through a heat exchanger, which is known as the regenerator. Okay. You pass it through this heat exchanger, which is known as regenerator. So some increase in temperature occurs from 2 to 5. Okay. We will see how much is this increase in temperature, but some increase in temperature occurs up to this point. So now this higher temperature fluid is passed into the combustion chamber at state 5, and because of combustion the temperature increases further and goes to a very high value which is T3. Okay. So then from 3 to 4 is the standard expansion in the turbine that we already know. So pressure decreases and temperature also decreases, and the pressure is brought back to the pressure that was present at state 1, to the atmospheric condition. Okay. So this process 2 to 5 is a constant pressure process. Okay, 2 to 5 is a constant pressure heat addition process. Then from 4 to 6, again this fluid is passed through the same heat exchanger. Okay, in the opposite direction. So this is like a counter flow heat exchanger. In the opposite direction, you pass this exhaust gas. This fluid at point 4 is known as the exhaust gas. So it is passed through the heat exchanger, and it goes out as state 6. So it loses some heat and it goes out as state 6, okay, at a lower temperature. So what is the function of this regenerator? So basically we are extracting some heat which was anyway getting lost from the exhaust gases to the atmosphere. So we were releasing the exhaust gas at state 4, temperature T4, to the atmosphere, and this was quite high temperature. So we were losing lot of heat in this process, lot of energy in this process, because this is being released at a high temperature, and you cannot lower the temperature. Remember, because this pressure cannot be lower than the atmospheric pressure. So 1 to 4 is the constant pressure line, and automatically the pressure at point 4 was governed by the atmospheric pressure. So this is the minimum temperature you could have reached at that point. Okay, because it is open to the atmosphere, unlike a steam turbine cycle, which is not open to the atmosphere. So as a result, this T4 was quite higher. So what we are doing using this heat exchanger or regenerator, we are extracting some more heat from this exhaust gas using a counterflow heat exchanger, so that this heat can be passed to the incoming air from the compressor. Okay. So basically the exhaust gas goes from temperature T4 to T6, and in exchange to that, or this heat basically goes towards this heating this fluid at temperature T2, and the fluid at temperature T2, which is air, it goes to temperature T5. Okay. So the operation in the counterflow heat exchanger is one stream goes from T2 to T5, and the opposite stream goes stream of air or fluids goes from T4 to T6. Okay, this is the heat exchange process. Why this is known as a regenerator? Because this heat exchange occurs internally. You are not separately using any external source for this heat exchange, or you are not using any external heat source for heating this fluid from 2 to 5. Okay, so this type of process is known as regeneration process. Okay, and because you are not using any external heat source to heat the fluid from 2 to 5, okay, so the only external heat addition in the cycle is what? It is only from 0.5 to 3. Okay, the only external heat addition is from 5 to 3. External heat addition means the heat addition what we are doing by combusting the fuel. Okay, it occurs from 5 to 3, and as a result you can see that compared to the previous Brayton cycle, simple Brayton cycle, the heat addition, if we keep everything else same, the heat addition now is less. Cp T3 minus T5 is less as compared to Cp T3 minus T2. So the heat addition is less, and the work output remains same. See, what was the work output previously? Cp T3 minus T4 minus Cp T2 minus T1. So the net work output remains exactly same, but the heat input is reduced. External heat input, this is very important. Okay, external heat input is reduced. As a result, the cycle efficiency increases, because cycle efficiency is defined as net work output by external work heat input. Okay, cycle efficiency increases. Any questions? Is it clear how the regeneration cycle works?
Sir, 0.6. Will 0.6 be above 0.5 in temperature, sir? Because the Cp value for hotter gases will be higher, right? So, won't 0.6 be higher than 0.5 with respect to temperature?
Good question. No, 0.6 will not be higher than 0.5 because it is a counterflow heat exchanger. Okay, it is a counterflow heat exchanger. It means that this 0.5 means if you see the physically, I have not drawn the lines here. The gas that is present near 0.5, okay, it is exchanging heat with the gas which is near this temperature 0.4. So 0.5 has to be lower than 0.4, okay, but it need not be lower than 0.6. Similarly, the gas which is present at near that 0.2, state 2, will be exchanging heat with this gas which is present near the state 6, okay. So 0.2 has to be lower than 0.6, but 0.5 need not be lower than 0.6 because it is not exchanging heat with the same region of the gas. It's a counterflow heat exchanger. It's not a parallel flow heat exchanger. Okay, so you can go beyond the minimum temperature of the say fluid with which you are exchanging heat. Is this clear, or should I describe again?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's clear.
Yes. Okay. I will come into some more points here, some more limitations. Okay, but this is how this occurs. It's like a counterflow heat exchanger. Okay. And so the point is that there are some more points I have shown here. Okay, the 6' and 5' points. What are these points? These are the points where the temperature for T5' is equal to T4. Okay, and this T6' is equal to T2. These points represents ideal case where the heat exchanger efficiency is 100%. So basically, it's not known as efficiency. We call it as effectiveness. So the heat exchanger or regenerator effectiveness is 100%. It means that we can entirely use the whatever is the extra energy that was present in the fluid and bring the fluid from state 4 to state 6' where the temperature is equal to the inlet temperature in the heat exchanger T2. Okay, so ideally what will happen if we have say infinitely long heat exchanger with infinitely large surface area and no losses, and if it is a counterflow heat exchanger, so if it has an infinitely large surface area, because of heat exchange process, finally the temperature at this point at the outlet of this above flow will come very close, can be brought very close to this temperature T2, right? Because it is infinitely long. You need infinitesimal temperature difference for the heat exchange to occur. So the temperature at 0.6 will be infinitesimally higher than the temperature at point T2. Okay. So at the ideal case limit that we have 100% effectiveness of heat exchange process, this 0.6 will be equal to, like, the temperature at 0.6 will be equal to the temperature at 0.2. Okay, T6 will be equal to T2, and that is represented here by this 6'. And in a real process, we cannot obviously bring this 0.6 to temperature T2, so it is somewhere in between 4 and 6'. It is at 0.6, which is higher than 6'. Same thing will occur on the other side. Okay, so this temperature 5 will become very close to the inlet temperature in the heat exchanger or the counterflow, okay, process, which is at T4. So this T5 will become almost equal to T4. There will be infinitesimal temperature difference at the limit that this is an infinitely long process. Okay. So at that point we can say that T5 is equal to T5'. Okay. And remember we are doing these calculations with constant Cp value. Okay, in real life the CP value will change, as you were saying. In real life the CP value will change. So those things we will take into account later. But for these ideal cases, we have assumed in the previous class that CP is constant for the entire cycle. It does not vary with temperature or composition. So in that case, this CP T5 dash minus T2. Anyway, like for the heat exchange process, CP T5 dash minus T2 has to be equal to CP T4 minus T6 dash from energy balance. So you can see that basically 5 dash should be equal to 4 and 2 should be equal to 6 dash. So these things I have written also. So you don't need to remember. 0.5 dash and 6 dash denote a heat exchanger with 100% effectiveness. But in actual applications, we will be somewhere below 0.5 dash. We will be at a point which is below 5 dash because we cannot go till this maximum temperature unless we have an infinitely long heat exchanger. So therefore, in real life, T5 is less than T4 and T6 is greater than T2. Okay. So based on this discussion, we can define a heat exchanger or regenerator effectiveness parameter. Just reduce the screen size for a minute. Okay. So we can define a regenerator effectiveness parameter epsilon as the actual enthalpy change that occurs H5 minus H2 divided by the ideal enthalpy change that could have occurred in the limiting case, which is H5 dash minus H2. So H5 minus H2 by H5 dash minus H2. For constant CP, we can write it as T5 minus T2 by T5 dash minus T2. And remember that T5 dash is equal to T4. So we can write this as T5 minus T2 by T4 minus T2. Okay. So for 100% effectiveness, what do we get from this equation? If this value is 1, effectiveness is 1. So T5 is equal to T4. Okay. For 100% effectiveness, T5 is equal to T4. With the caveat that we are doing this calculation for a constant CP. Okay. But we will do that for our course, for at least for this part. Okay. So this is the case. Okay. So obviously higher value of effectiveness means that we will get more efficiency. This is clear from the diagram. If you can go take this 0.5 higher and higher, the heat addition in the combustion chamber will get reduced. T5, T3 minus T5 will be lower and efficiency will increase. But it needs a larger regenerator, larger heat exchange area. If you want to increase the effectiveness, you have to increase the heat exchange area. And so that increases the cost. And for a non-ideal gas, non-ideal case, okay, obviously in real life the cases are not ideal. So there will be pressure drop in the heat exchanger. So if you have a larger heat exchanger, more pressure drop will be there, which will actually lead to more loss. So the efficiency can actually drop because of the pressure drop. Typical values are around 0.85, 0.9 for this heat exchange process. Okay. So from now onward, we will do some analysis, assuming that this heat exchanger effectiveness is 1. Okay. For the general case also you can do analysis by taking some value of effectiveness, not difficult. But we will do some theoretical calculation, assuming that, because we are anyway dealing with ideal cycle, we will also assume that the effectiveness is also ideal. Everything is ideal. This is also ideal, and we will do some more analysis. Okay, based on this. Any question?
Sir, this
Yes.
pressure drop across heat exchanger will not affect efficiency or work done output of the this complete cycle.
It will affect because in the ideal case it is not going to affect. In real case, what will happen? This pressure drop will occur from this 0.2 to 0.5. Okay, there will be slight decrease in pressure. So what will happen? We will go below this constant pressure line. what will happen is that, so I cannot draw it here. I am later on anyway we will discuss this. We will go below this constant pressure line. Okay, so some losses will occur, pressure losses will occur, and either you will need more heat addition in the combustion chamber, and another thing what will happen is that even if the heat addition remains same and you keep the temperature T3 fixed, because that depends on the turbine inlet temperature, because of pressure losses you will reach this T3 point somewhat later. Okay, so the pressure ratio across the turbine will decrease in real life. Okay, remember the pressure ratio here is fixed, given by the compressor. Say we give a pressure ratio as 20, so inlet pressure is 1 atmospheric pressure, and after the compression now we have 20 atmospheric pressure, and then we have a combined pressure loss of say 5% in the heat exchanger as well as the combustion chamber. So 5% pressure loss means instead of 20 atmospheric pressure at the inlet of the turbine, we have 19 atmospheric pressure. 5% pressure is lost, 19 atmospheric pressure. But the outlet pressure, forget about the heat exchanger for now. The outlet pressure will remain as 1 atmospheric pressure. So what is the pressure ratio across the turbine? Instead of 20, now it is 19. It means that work output will be reduced across the turbine. Okay. So pressure loss will lead to reduced efficiency. Okay. Now for the heat exchanger, there is also the downstream side from 4 to 6. So in the 4 to 6 also, if there is pressure loss, outside pressure has to be equal to the atmospheric pressure, right? So this 0.6 will be at the atmospheric pressure. What it means, if there is a pressure loss, 0.4 has to be at a pressure which is higher than the atmospheric pressure, so that 0.6 can be at the atmospheric pressure. So if 0.4 is at a higher pressure than the atmospheric pressure, instead of 1, say it is at 1.2, then the ratio is further decreased. It is now 19 by 1.2. So you will get even less work output from the turbine. So yes, in real life, pressure decrease, anywhere pressure decrease occurs, it causes a loss of efficiency. Those things we will discuss later when we discuss about real cycles, after ending these discussions about ideal cycles, after a few more classes. Okay. Is this clear? Doubt is clear? I guess it is. So we'll increase the size. So for a Brayton cycle with regeneration, what is the efficiency? It is net work output by net heat addition. No, sorry, not net heat addition. Heat addition from external heat source. Okay. WT minus WC remains same. Cp T3 minus T4 minus Cp T2 minus T1 by Cp T3 minus T5. I will just go back to the cycle once again. Net work output is Cp T3 minus T4 minus Cp T2 minus T1. This is the net work output. But the heat input now is Cp T3 minus T5. Okay. For the ideal case, it is equal to Cp T3 minus T5 dash, which means that it is now equal to Cp T3 minus T4. Okay. Remember this, Cp T3 minus T4 is the net heat addition for the ideal case. Okay. So for an ideal cycle with effectiveness equal to 1, T5 is equal to T4. So I can write eta as T3 minus T4 minus T2 minus T1 by T3 minus T4. Okay. You also have the notes with you. Okay. So remember, I have sent through email just before today's class. So you can open the notes also with you if you want. In case you want to go back to the cycles when I am discussing. If you don't remember what are the points T3, T5, because it is, I can only show you limited screen here. If it was on the board, I could have shown the cycle and everything side by side. But here on screen, I can just show a limited portion of the PDF file. So you can also open your file and just check if some confusions are there for you. So now eta is equal to 1 minus T2 minus T1 by T3 minus T4. You can do some simplification for this. Okay, take T1 and T3 out. So you will get T2 by T1 minus 1 on the numerator. In the denominator, you get 1 minus T4 by T3. And what is T2 by T1? It is the temperature ratio across the compressor, which is R to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma. So R to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma is C. We have discussed this. So this is C minus 1. And what is T4 by T3? Remember, T3 by T4 is the is R to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma, temperature change across the turbine. So T4 by T3 is 1 by R to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma, which is 1 by C. Okay. So we have, so if you take C as common from the numerator, both the numerator and denominator will cancel each other, and you will be left with 1 minus C by T. Okay. Or in other words, efficiency is equal to 1 minus R to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma minus 1 by gamma by temperature ratio T. Okay. So now in this case, for regenerative Brayton cycle, the efficiency is not only a function of pressure ratio R, it is now also a function of the temperature ratio T. Okay. It is different from the simple Brayton cycle, where the temperature ratio did not play any part, but now we also have the temperature ratio in the equation. So it is also a function of the temperature ratio T. And how this varies from the previous case? Please remember, what was the previous case? Brayton cycle, simple Brayton cycle, eta was 1 minus.
We increase pressure ratio, efficiency will decrease, sir.
Correct. Good point. Very good point. Previously, it was that if we increase the pressure ratio, efficiency would have increased in the previous case. Means for simple Brayton cycle, because R to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma was at the bottom. But now if we increase the pressure ratio, this term will increase and the efficiency will decrease. Okay. And if you increase the value of T, if you increase the temperature ratio now, then the efficiency will increase. Okay. So behavior is somewhat different as compared to simple Brayton cycle. So I have shown a qualitative plot here. I will show you a quantitative plot later on. We will have to check, because this time I had created the programs last time. I have to check whether the programs are still working or not. Towards the end of the class I will try, otherwise in the next class I will try. Using MATLAB I can actually draw the plots and we can see the results. But qualitatively it will look like this. Take a typical value of T, say T equal to 3. Okay. So for T equal to 3, for R equal to 1, what should be the value of efficiency? R1 means this numerator is 1 to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma, which is 1. So efficiency is 1 minus 1 by T. Okay. So 1 minus 1 by 3 in that case. Okay, 2 by 3. So it starts from 2 by 3, and with increasing value of R, the efficiency keeps on decreasing. If you continue, it will keep on decreasing, follow the solid line, and then it will still keep on decreasing. It will follow the dashed line. So this entire line from the solid line towards the dashed line, entire line is the efficiency of the regenerative cycle for T equal to 3. For T equal to 4, it will start with 1 minus 1 by 4. So from 0.75, and again it will keep physical meaning of these things. I'm just first explaining the curves, but we will come to the physical meaning. Okay. So T equal to 4, it will keep on decreasing like this. Similarly, T equal to 5. Okay. So at some point at some pressure ratio, depending on the temperature ratio, the efficiency will be lower than the simple Brayton cycle. Okay. So for this point, below the pressure ratio, so for T equal to 3, below the pressure ratio, which is shown by this conjunction of the blue line and the red line. Below this pressure ratio, regeneration is more effective, means regeneration has higher efficiency. Above this pressure ratio, simple Brayton cycle has more efficiency. Okay, we will pause here for 5 minutes to think about this, and then we will again continue the class. Okay, we will pause here for 5 minutes. I will take a break, and we will continue the class after 5 minutes. Think about what is the reason for this. Okay, and what is the limiting condition below which regeneration is not worthwhile, not effective. We cannot do regeneration. Okay, you can open your notes, see the graph, TS diagram, and think. So I'm back. I hope you can hear me. Can someone confirm?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So what is the physical meaning of these points here? Where the lines coincide, this blue line with the red line, below which the regeneration will have less efficiency as compared to the simple cycle. Can anyone explain? What is the physical meaning? At what point? So I will go back to the cycle here. Just looking at the cycle, forget about Yes. Forget about assume that 5 is equal to 5 dash and 6 is equal to 6 dash. Okay. Because 100% effectiveness we are considering. Yes, tell me. Someone was replying, right?
When high pressure ratios, when T2 reaches higher than T4, then there is of general.
Yes, correct. Good. When T2 is higher than T4, if we have a high pressure ratio, if we keep on increasing the pressure ratio, T2 will keep on increasing, right? As we have seen in the previous, we'll just keep this open. As we have seen in the previous case, if we keep on increasing pressure ratio, T2 will keep on increasing. And at some point, what will happen? Keeping the temperature ratio constant, T3 by T1 constant, if we keep on increasing the pressure ratio, T2 will go beyond T4. At that point, you cannot effectively transfer the heat because now we were trying to transfer heat from this exhaust gas to this part. But for some part of the heat exchanger, the opposite thing will happen. Means that the heat flow direction will become opposite. Okay, it will actually negatively affect the heat exchange process. So heat exchanger is not effective. So the condition for a regenerator to be used is that T4 should be always higher than T2, and the limiting case is that T4 is equal to T2. If T4 is not higher than T2, we cannot use a regenerator. Obviously, this is clear from this diagram, but this is also why this effect has happened here. Okay.
It should be less than optimum pressure ratio.
Well, it should be less than optimum pressure ratio for a regeneration process. Yes, optimum means in case of in terms of maximum work output. Yes. If you want to increase the efficiency, so work output is not the only important parameter, right? Efficiency is a very important parameter. Yes, it has to be below the maximum work output limit. Okay. What is happening to the work output in this cycle as compared to the simple Brayton cycle? Is it changing?
It will be lesser now because
No.
T2 and T4 are far apart. So specific work output will be lesser.
Why is it lesser work output?
Sir, work output will be maximum when T2 and T4 are at the same level, right? Now T2 and T4 can't be at the same level.
Not the optimum case. I am saying that for exact same temperature and pressure ratio, say somewhere around here, okay, along. I have pointed the cursor at the blue line. Okay, so efficiency here, if there is no lag, the cursor is now on the blue line, T equal to 3, and efficiency obviously here is higher for the regeneration cycle as compared to the simple Brayton cycle, because we are at a condition where T2 is less than T4. So for the exact same condition, same pressure ratio and same temperature ratio, will the work output be different?
It would be same.
It would be same. Yes, that is my point. Yes, only that optimized condition we cannot reach. But if we have the same pressure ratio and same temperature ratio, work output is going to be same. Only the efficiency.
Heat input would be less.
Heat input will be less, yes, and efficiency will be different. So this is how the lines look like. Okay, so we should use only regeneration up to this point where it touches the red line, and physically this coincides with T2 equal to T4, and we can also prove that very easily, as we are going to. I think we are going to do this next. Okay, so I have outlined that eta increases if temperature ratio increases, eta decreases if for the same temperature ratio if R increases. Okay. Again, let us go back to this diagram. Always try to understand the things physically. Okay. If you don't remember, that is fine. Physical concept should be very clear. Okay. What happens if T increases? Small t, temperature ratio increases, keeping constant R value. So T3 will increase. We will go to a higher value of T3. Okay. And if the pressure ratio remains constant, if T3 increases, T4 will also be higher because T3 by T4 ratio will remain same because R is constant. So if T3 increases, T4 will also be higher. And T2 is not going to change because pressure ratio is constant. So the difference between T4 and T2 will increase, and we will have higher scope of regeneration if the temperature ratio increases. Okay, regeneration is more effective when the difference between T4 and T2 is higher. I hope this is very clear, right? So if you keep on increasing the difference between T4 and T2, you can have more effective regeneration. So one way to do it is to increase the temperature ratio by improving the materials, okay, for a fixed pressure ratio. In that case, you have more scope of regeneration. Okay, so that's why our size, this efficiency was giving that with more T we get more efficient, with more T but with a fixed R we get a higher efficiency. Okay, and the other case we have already seen, if we keep the T fixed, means T3 by T1 fixed, if we keep on increasing R. So if we keep on increasing R, the 0.2 increases, goes higher, and the difference between T4 and T2 decreases, and we get less scope for regeneration. Okay, so increasing R decreases the scope of regeneration. So that's why these two conditions are present. Okay, how T and R affects. And I have discussed at R equal to 1, eta is equal to 1 minus 1 by T. This is similar to Carnot cycle efficiency. Okay, 1 minus 1 by T is 1 minus T1 by T3. T1 is the minimum temperature in the cycle. T3 is the maximum temperature in the cycle. So at the limiting case of R equal to 1, we get 1 minus minimum by T min by T max, which is the Carnot cycle efficiency for a given temperature range. Okay, Carnot cycle efficiency for a given temperature range. Obviously, we cannot achieve that because in that case there will be no work output. Pressure ratio is 1, so no work output. So theoretical limit is of a regenerative cycle is that we get Carnot cycle efficiency. Okay. So we want to find out what is this. We have described this. I have described this, and you have taken my word that this at these points T2 equal to T4. But we want to mathematically see that yes, T2 is equal to T4 at that point. Okay. So for C is equal to root T. Okay. Say C is equal to root T. Then T is C square, so eta can be written as, so what is eta? Eta was 1 minus C by T. So I can write this as 1 minus C by C square. So which is 1 minus 1 by C, which is 1 minus 1 by R to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma. Okay. What is this? What is this value? This is equal to the simple Brayton cycle efficiency. So for C is equal to root T, we get this simple Brayton cycle efficiency. What is C? C is R to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma. Okay. So for a value of R, for which R to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma is equal to root T, we get same efficiency for both the blue line and the red line. Okay. So corresponding to this point. So this point means that C is equal to root T, or R to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma is equal to root T. So at what condition this happens? We have seen in the let me just keep it here. This scrolling is difficult for you, I understand. Means I quickly scroll. We have limited space here. We had seen for the simple Brayton cycle today in the like at the beginning of the class that for C is equal to root T, the condition T2 is equal to T4 is satisfied. Okay. So C equal to root T means T2 equal to T4. So the same thing we are seeing here. Okay. So for C equal to root T, both the efficiencies become equal. So it means that for T2 equal to T4, regenerative cycle efficiency is equal to simple Brayton cycle efficiency. It means that the blue line coincides with the red line. Okay. And obviously, if you increase the value of T, C is equal to root T occurs at higher value of C, means at higher pressure ratio, you can achieve higher pressure ratio, for which the like you can go to higher pressure ratio for the regenerative cycle. Okay. Typically, what we do, we just operate at a point which is slightly below this maximum work output point. Okay, which is slightly below this maximum. So pressure ratio is slightly below this maximum work output point, means optimum point, so that we get good efficiency also and good work output also. And these are typically only done for industrial gas turbines. As we will discuss later, for jet engines, weight is a very important factor, mass of the engine. So we don't want to add additional components like regenerator, reheater, intercooler for aviation engines, for jet engines, because it will increase the weight and reduce the fuel economy. So in those cases, we just go with simple Brayton cycle, but with a high temperature ratio, so that we directly get a high efficiency with high temperature ratio. Okay. But for industrial gas turbines, where weight is not a very big issue, we can add these extra things, regeneration. So this happens when C is equal to root T and there is no scope for regeneration. Okay. And we have already discussed, as C is decreased, so as R is decreased, eta increases as there is more scope of regeneration, as T2 becomes much less than T4. Okay. So finally, to summarize, for regeneration cycle, efficiency increase, net specific work output remains same as compared to Brayton cycle. Okay. Any questions on regeneration cycle, ideal regeneration cycle? We will see real regeneration cycles later on, but now we are focusing on ideal cycles. Okay.
Sir, we need to practice numericals also for these questions.
Correct, and I will also solve a few cases here, and I will give you some sets. Okay, for solving. So, for example, I think I have sets already prepared. So I will give you some assignment sets, and you can solve those problems. Okay, I will give you the solutions also, so that you don't have to bother with the marks. You just solve them on your own. Try to solve them without seeing the solution, and then compare with the solution. And for each case, for this ideal cycles, a few problems, then like this. But I can only give a few problems because I cannot generate lot of problems, very large amount of problems. It takes a lot of time. So you should practice from the book also. This first part is given in the, it is also present in the gas turbine books. Okay, like Ganeshan book, but is very well covered in the book by Chengel-Bowles, thermodynamics book. Okay, one chapter is there on Brayton cycle, regenerative Brayton cycle, and reheat Brayton cycle, all these things. So you can also solve some problems from there, or take a look at the practice problems. We will also solve some problems in the class, but only a limited number of problems, as time is very limited in this class, as there is no tutorial part, only lecture part. But in the exams, mostly I ask problems, problem-based questions, not theoretical. Means theoretical short questions I can ask, but mostly it is problem-based questions, not like describe a regenerative Brayton cycle, not that type of questions. Okay, I can ask state what happens to the efficiency, work output, maximum some 3-4 points if we add regeneration to a simple Brayton cycle. This type of questions can be asked. Okay, what is the effect?
Hello.
Yes,
sir?
Tell me.
Sir, in regeneration cycle, we are getting some work output even when R is 1, right?
No, you will not get work output when R is 1.
But efficiency, we are getting some finite value.
That is true. Efficiency, we are getting some finite value, but the cycle does not exist. At the limiting case when R is 1, you cannot draw the cycle. Okay, it's the theoretical limit of the efficiency, but the theoretical limit does not always need to go to infinity or 1. Here the theoretical limit is equal to the Carnot cycle efficiency. But actually what will happen? If R is 1, this line will just coincide, means 1 to 4 and 4 to 1. So there is no area inside the cycle. Okay, so we cannot get any work output. Work output, the lines I have not shown you. So I have only shown efficiency versus R. Okay, in the previous case for simple Brayton cycle, I have shown both types of line. I have not shown the work output lines here because work output lines are exactly same as simple Brayton cycle. Okay, so these lines will coincide. There is no difference. For t equal to 2, 3, 4, 5 will coincide. Okay. Is it clear?
Okay, sir.
Yes. It's just a theoretical limit. Okay. Actual case, that cycle cannot exist. But the theoretical limit is a finite value. It can happen in maths also. There are a lot of things, interesting things where there are limits goes to finite. Like there are some type of volumes. Actually, I'm just not related to the course. Okay, but you can take a look. Some interesting
Sir, I
type.
think the expression of work will have some 0 by 0 form at R equal to 1, and that is not visible in the efficiency part.
Yes, yes. You cannot use the normal equation at that point, at the limit. You cannot use that work input by net work output by heat input, but you have to do a limit. Okay, if you do the limit, you will see that actually you will get some limiting value. Okay, limit R tends to 0. If you find the limit, sorry, R tends to 1. If you find the limit, you will get a limiting value. Okay. Okay, so see, remember that in maths there are a lot of examples when the 0 by 0 limiting values, like there are some expressions like say sin x by x. If x goes to 0, sin x also goes to 0, but the limiting value does not go to 0. Okay, so lot of cases limiting value is a finite value, even if both the values goes to 0. Okay, so similarly in this case also it can happen. So limit sin x by x equal to 1. So in this case also something like that can happen. Okay, so you have to find the limit for that case. So anyway, so the next type of modification that was developed for Brayton cycle, next means not chronologically next, means in terms of studying, the next type of modification that we can consider is adding reheat. Again, the concept of reheat is not new to any of you. You have studied regeneration and reheat both in steam turbine cycles in power plant engineering or steam turbines, or depending on the courses that you had in undergraduate. So same is the concept of reheat here also. So if I look at the TS diagram, it means that first we have a compression process similar to the simple Brayton cycle. We go from 1 to 2. Then we have heat addition in the combustion chamber at a constant pressure from 2 to 3. Then expansion in the turbine like the simple Brayton cycle from 3 to 4. But instead of taking the fluid to the atmospheric pressure or the outlet pressure P1, we go to some intermediate pressure, okay, P4, which is higher than P1. And after this, again we pass the fluid to another combustion chamber, another set of combustion chamber, where again combustion occurs. Okay. The second combustion can occur because remember that we operate the air fuel ratio at a very lean condition. We have discussed this. Okay, everything is connected. If you think logically, you will see that everything is connected. So it's a very lean mixture. So amount of oxygen is quite high as compared to the stoichiometric amount required. So a lot of oxygen still remains after the first combustion process. So we can add some more fuel and do more combustion. And then after that, we again go to a high temperature T5 and then pass this high temperature fluid to another turbine. Okay. And now expand it from this intermediate pressure to the low pressure, which is equal to the atmospheric pressure. So the exhaust gas goes out at temperature T6. T6 is higher than P1, but pressure P6 should be equal to P1 because this is the atmospheric outlet pressure. Okay. Although we draw the cycle as a closed cycle in real life, 0.6 is just like open to the atmosphere. Okay. So the component diagram looks like this. You have a compressor. So 1 to 2 compressor. You can just compare these two, TS diagram and component diagram. 2 to 3 is the process that occurs in the combustion chamber, constant pressure heat addition. So 2 to 3 is a constant pressure line. 3 to 4 is a isentropic expansion in the turbine. So this is the turbine. 4 to 5 is a constant pressure heat addition, but the constant pressure here is less than the constant pressure. So the first combustion chamber is at a higher pressure. Second combustion chamber is at a lower pressure. So this constant pressure 4 to 5 line, if you extend this line, it will be somewhere in between 2 to 3 line and 1 to 6 line. Okay. So all these are constant pressure lines. Then from 4 to 5, then after 5, from 5 to 6 is again isentropic expansion in the turbine. So this first turbine, which operates at higher pressure, P3 and P4 are higher as compared to P5 and so P3 by P4, sorry, not P3 by P4, P3 is higher as compared to P5, right? And P4 is higher as compared to P6. So first turbine operates at higher pressure. So it is known as high pressure turbine. Second turbine is known as low pressure turbine. Okay. What is the pressure at 5 and 4? So if there are no losses, pressure at 5 should be equal to pressure at 4. So P5 equal to P4. They are on the constant pressure line. What should be the temperature relation between T3 and T5? Physically, there is no relation, but from design point of view, it makes more sense if T5 equal to T3. Is this clear? Say you have developed a new material for turbine blades, so which can cater to a maximum temperature of 1200 degrees centigrade. So you want to utilize that material fully. So if it can cater to 1200 degrees centigrade, you can take the maximum cycle temperature to 1200 degrees centigrade. So if you have T3 at 1200 degrees centigrade, you can also take T5 also to 1200 degrees centigrade because we have the same material temperature limit. There is no point if we just keep T5 lower than T3. Okay, then we will get less efficiency. So ultimately, both are kept at the same height. T3 is equal to T5 depending on the material limit. Okay, so typically T3 is equal to T5 and ideally P5 equal to P4. For this case, I have also drawn the pressure PV diagram. For regeneration cycle, I did not draw it because there is you cannot see much from that. It looks similar to the simple Brayton cycle, but in this case, it is different. So 1 to 2 again, you can see the isentropic compression. 2 to 3 is the constant pressure heat addition at a higher pressure. 3 to 4 is the isentropic expansion. We go to an intermediate pressure between 1 and 2, okay, between P1 and P2. 4 to 5 is the constant pressure heat addition at this intermediate pressure, and 5 to 6 is again an expansion in the low pressure turbine. Okay, 6 to 1 is the heat exchange process to close the cycle. The working of this cycle is clear to everyone, or if you have any doubts, please ask me. Okay. The concept should be clear. Then we will go into some analysis. Concept should be clear. Okay. So basically, we are adding some more heat by putting another combustion chamber. That is the process. It's a separate. You are not taking it to back to the same combustion chamber. You just have another combustion chamber after the first turbine. Okay. And as a result, well, we will see what is going to happen. But by looking at this cycle, you can tell me what is going to happen. Okay. If it was a simple Brayton cycle up to this point, T3, and then you expand that gas in the first turbine up to atmospheric pressure, what would have happened? I need that writing pad, otherwise I cannot show you many things. Okay. So this T3 will go from T3 to T4 and then below this T4 until it coincides with this constant pressure line, right? So if I will have from T3 directly, it's the vertical line which goes down and it goes to this constant pressure line. I will show you in the next class. Okay. So the cycle will look like this: 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and then 3 to 4 straight down, and again 4 to 1. Okay. So what will be the cycle area as compared to the new cycle area? Cycle area for the simple cycle will be less as compared to the reheat cycle. Yes. So if cycle area is less as compared to the reheat cycle, it means that reheat cycle has more net work output, right? More net specific work output. So the main purpose of adding reheat is to increase the net specific work output. If you think carefully about the efficiency from the TS diagram, you will notice, or you have to think carefully. After the class, you think about this. Actually, the efficiency will be reduced. Just by looking at the cycle also, we can say that actually the efficiency will be reduced as compared to the previous case. You think about this, why it will happen. Okay. This addition of this new part actually causes some loss in efficiency. Without going into mathematics also, just by understanding the cycle, you can understand why this will be happening. Okay. You just think about it after the class. Let us analyze this cycle a little. So now we have two pressure ratios. Okay. One pressure ratio is P3 to P4. So let us call this pressure ratio as RA. And the second pressure ratio is from P5 to P6. Let us call this pressure ratio as RB. And the overall pressure ratio is P2 by P1, whatever we give in the compressor, which is equal to R. What is the relation between R and RA-RB? R should be equal to RA into RB, because what is the value of P3? P3 is equal to P2. And what is the value of P6? P6 is equal to P1. Okay. And P4 equal to P5. You just multiplied RA into RB. You get P3 by P4 into P5 by P6, which is equal to P3 by P6, which is equal to P2 by P1. So R is equal to RA into RB. Just practice this after the class. Okay. So these two turbine pressure ratios are related to the overall compressor pressure ratio in this form. R is equal to RA into RB. If we define C as R to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma equal to T2 by T1, which we have already done previously, we can similarly define two more temperature ratios. Temperature ratio across the first turbine, which is CA, which is equal to RA to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma. RA to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma is T3 by T4. Okay. What is the RA? P3 by P4. So P3 by P4 to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma for the isentropic process gives us T3 by T4. Similarly, for the isentropic process, P5 by P6 to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma gives us T5 by T6. Okay. So CB is equal to RB to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma, which is equal to T5 by T6. Okay. Since C is equal to CA into CB, why? Because R to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma is equal to RA to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma into RB to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma from this relation. C is equal to Ca into Cv. Okay, so temperature ratios are also related. And we have also discussed that typically we assume T5 to be equal to T3, which is the maximum temperature limit or the material limit of the turbine blades. Okay, so with this now we can analyze the cycle. Again, I cannot show you parallelly the diagrams and or can we show it side by side? Can I open another instance of this? It will do the same thing.
So you can open with Chrome.
Yes, I can do that. It is easier actually if there is a big board and a lot of things I can show side by side. Or some other PDF thing also is fine, right? I guess. Size will be slightly smaller, but I want to show you side by side. Otherwise, it's just randomly I am saying T1, T2, T3, T4, and there is a disconnect. Don't understand. Otherwise, you have to. I remember because I have done this so many times, but you will not remember all the what is T1, T2, T3, T4, T5, T6, all these things randomly. So we should always keep the cycles open whenever we are doing some discussion. Otherwise, it becomes difficult. So in the board, always I draw the cycles and keep them drawn whenever some discussion is going on. Okay, we'll continue like this for the next few classes. Now it is better. Okay, now I guess this is better if you can see the cycles. So T5 equal to T3 we generally keep, and T3 by T4 multiplied by T5 by T6 is equal to T2 by T1. Okay, and that also is established, and P2 by P1 is equal to P3 by P4 into P5 by P6. All this we have established just now. Okay. So what is the net work output from this? Okay, there are two turbine work outputs, assuming constant CP again, because we are till now only going through ideal cycles. CP minus T4, CP minus T4. Now this is better. Yes. CP minus T4 is the first turbine work output. CP 5 minus T6 is the second turbine work output. Okay. So total work output is CP minus T4 plus CP 5 minus T6 minus compressor work input, which is CP minus T1. Can you see both these slides? You can see, right? Side by side?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So this is the net work output from the cycle. Okay, two turbine work output, one compressor work input. What is the okay? We'll come to the efficiency bit next, but we cannot call it simplification, but we can write this in terms of non-dimensional form by dividing this net work output by CP by T1, and if you do some calculation, you will get this expression. It is not a very simplified expression. You will get T minus T by Ca plus T minus T by Cv minus C plus 1. Okay, this is the form. For this case, I will explain. For the next cases, you should just try on your own. Okay, so T3 by T1. What is T3 by T1? It is the temperature ratio T. For T4, So we are dividing, remember we are dividing this entire expression by CP_T1. Okay, so CP cancels everywhere. So the next term is T4 by T1. T4 by T1 I can write as T4 by T3 into T3 by T1. What is T4 by T3? T4 by T3 is 1 by T3 by T4. And what is 1 by T3 by T4? 1 by CA. Okay. So 1 by CA into small t. So this is T by CA. Okay, next term. Third term is T5 by T1. Remember that T5 we have assumed to be equal to T3. So T5 by T1 is also the temperature ratio T, small t. Then next term is minus T6 by T1. Again, we can write T6 by T1 as T6 by T5 into T5 by T1. T5 by T1 we have just established is T. T6 by T5 again we can write as 1 by CB. Okay. So this term is, this entire term is T by CB. Okay. Then minus T2 by T1. T2 by T1 we already know. T2 by T1 we have established that it is C. Okay. Minus C. Minus. So plus T1 by T1 which is 1. So this is the expression for net work output in non-dimensional form and specific value. Okay. So for maximum net specific non-dimensional work output, keeping C and T constant, let us assume that C and T are already given by the designer. T is given because of the, we know already why T is fixed, because of atmospheric condition and material limit, and overall pressure ratio is also fixed, say based on the other design consideration. We want to find out the division between CA and CB. We know that C is equal to CA into CB. So how will we divide this? So how much will be the expansion in the first turbine and how much will be the expansion in the second turbine? Whether we will have large expansion in the first turbine and small in the second turbine, or whether the first turbine should be very small and second turbine should be large, or whether they should be equal. We want to find this out. Okay. So for max, remember the main purpose of reheat cycle is to get maximum, increase the work output. So for maximum work output, we can differentiate this work output assuming constant T and constant C with respect to either CA or CB. Okay, any one of these, because they are not independent. If C is fixed, CB is equal to C by CA. Okay, so if I take CA is the variable, so I can just write CB as C by CA. Okay, so you can differentiate with respect to either CA or CB to find out what is the optimum value of CA and CB. Okay, so if we do that, assuming that CA is the variable, you differentiate this expression with respect to CA, assuming constant T and C. What will you get? First term is 0, means T is constant. Second term is minus T, and then differentiation of minus 1 by CA, which is minus T differentiation of 1 by CA, which is minus 1 by CA square. So you get for this term. Then again 0. For this term, T by CB, I should write CB as C by CA. Okay. So minus T into C by CA. Okay. If I minus T into CA by C. So what is CB? C by CA, right? So minus T into CA by C. If you differentiate this with respect to CA, you get T by C, minus T by C. Okay, just do this. And then the last two terms are again 0 because we assume that they are constant, C is constant. Okay. Similarly, you can do with respect to CB also, assuming that CA is equal to C by CB, okay, and C as constant. So optimum condition is that this value should be equal to 0. So T by CA square is equal to T by C, or 1 by CA square is equal to 1 by C, or CA is equal to root C. And because CA square, CA into CB is equal to C, so CA equal to root C means that CB is also equal to root C, which means that CB is equal to CA. or RA is equal to RB. Okay, RB is equal to RA. So same pressure ratio. If the pressure ratio P3 by P4 is equal to P5 by P6, we get the maximum work output. So we should divide the pressure ratio equally. Okay, ratio equally means P3 not like it's not the midpoint. So it is not P3 plus P6 by P4. It is so P4 is root over P3 by P6. Okay, it's like the geometric mean. Okay, so P3 by P4 equal to P5 by P6, or P3 P4 is equal to root over P3 into P6, as P4 is equal to P5. Okay, so whatever is the pressure in this intermediate part is the root over of this P3 into P6. Okay, we divide these pressure ratios equally. What does it mean in terms of temperature? What is TP RA? RA into RB also means that CA equal to CB. RA equal to RB means CA equal to CB. Okay. So T3 by T4 is equal to T5 by T6. T3 by T4 is equal to T5 by T6. Remember, T3 we have taken assumed to be equal to T5. So it means that T4 is equal to T6. So 0.4 and 0.6 are at the same height for maximum work output. What does it mean for turbine work output of each individual turbine? For the first turbine, what was the work output? Cp T3 minus T4. For the second turbine, what is the work output? Cp T5 minus T6. If T4 is equal to T6, what is the work output of the two turbines? Both are equal because T3 is also equal to T5, right? Is this clear?
Yes,
Or
sir.
shall I repeat? Okay. So
So,
both the
yes, sir.
turbine, yes. Both the turbine work outputs are equal in the optimum case. Optimum means optimized with respect to maximum work output. Okay, and the maximum work output can be written as, so if you just replace CA and CB here by root over C, we'll get this expression. You cannot call it a simplified expression, it's a complicated expression, but this is the expression for maximum work output. Okay, and we can plot this with various values of T and R. C actually includes R. Remember, C is equal to R to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma. So we can plot this for various values of C and R, or R and T, to see how the work output varies, maximum work output varies with respect to these values. Okay. What is the efficiency of this cycle at this maximum work output condition? For assuming that we are operating at the maximum work output, optimum condition, W max by Q in. Okay, so W max we can just write as W net max into CPT1. So CPT1 into either of these expressions. Okay, so W max is equal to CPT1 into, say, this expression 2T minus 2P by root C minus C plus 1. What is the heat input? Now you have two heat inputs, two external heat inputs, CpT3 minus T2 in the first combustion chamber and CP T5 minus T4 in the second combustion chamber. Okay, CpT3 minus T2 in the first combustion chamber, CpT5 minus T4 in the second combustion chamber. So this is the external heat addition. So efficiency, and you can simplify this. CP cancels, take T1 to the bottom and divide T3 by T1, which is equal to T. T2 by T1 is C. Again, T5 by T1 is T. And T4 by T1 you can just calculate very easily and show that it is equal to minus T by root C. We might have already done somewhere here. Okay, it is equal to minus T by root C. So this is the expression for the efficiency. Okay, somewhat in simplified form you can write like this. You cannot physically appreciate or understand what is happening with various values of T and C for this efficiency, unlike the other cases, like unlike the regeneration or the simple Brayton cycle, whether just by looking at the expression we were able to say what is happening, because here the expression is complicated. We cannot directly say what is happening. But if you plot these efficiency values, you will see the plots something like this. Okay. So what happens is that simple cycle efficiency without any reheat is maximum. If you add a reheat, okay, for a constant T value, for a constant T equal to 2, small temperature ratio T equal to 2, the efficiency also increases with R, but the efficiency is always lower than the simple cycle. For a higher value of T, the efficiency is more than T equal to 2, but still less than simple cycle. If you keep on increasing the value of T, you will get higher and higher efficiency, but it will always be less than the efficiency of the simple cycle. Okay, the efficiency is always less than the efficiency of the simple cycle. So by adding reheat, you are losing efficiency, but you are gaining net specific work output. Okay, you are losing efficiency, but you are gaining net specific work output. So in real life, only reheat is not used. So generally we combine it with regeneration so that we get both high efficiency and high work output, which we will study in the next class. But for only reheat, this is what happens to the efficiency curves. Okay, so with the increasing value of T, efficiency increases, and with increasing R also efficiency increases, but it is always less than simple cycle efficiency. What about this net specific work output? Also we can plot from, yes, question? The net specific work output also we can plot from that complicated expression at the maximum condition, optimum condition. Optimum means only because optimum in terms of CA and CV, means assuming that T4 equal to T6 and T3 equal to T5. Other things are varying, means R is varying, so C is also varying. Pressure ratio can vary and T can also vary. So if you plot it, it will look similar to the case of the simple cycle. See, it is similar to the simple. Oh, this is the same thing. No, not this one, not this one. Sorry. Here. Okay. This is with the reheat. This is the simple cycle. This will look similar, somewhat similar, but in actual case, if you just overlap them, these lines are much higher as compared to these lines. Okay, so in actual case, the work output is much higher. So much higher as compared to simple Brayton cycle. So this T equal to 2 line is much higher than this T equal to 2 line. Okay, if we compare them and plot them in the same graph. So qualitatively, they look similar. So work output actually increases. That can be easily seen from the cycle area. Okay. So to summarize the effect, the net specific work output increases, net work output also increases, obviously, but the efficiency decreases by adding reheat. So we have studied two things today. One is the reheat and second is the regeneration. In reheat, the net specific work output increases, efficiency decreases. In regeneration, the net specific work output remains constant, but the efficiency increases. Right? Did I say it correctly? So in reheat, the work output increases, efficiency decreases. In regeneration, work output remains same, efficiency increases. Okay. So in the next class, we will see a combination of these two, and then we will see another method which is known as intercooling. Okay. Instead of reheating, we can also change. We can break down the compression process into two separate compression process using a device which is known as intercooler. Okay, this you might not have studied for steam turbine cycles. In steam turbines, we study regeneration and reheat, but intercooling, there is no concept of intercooling. But here we can also use something called intercooling, and that also will increase the work output, as we will see later. Okay, So we'll stop the class here. The notes are already shared with you through email. If you have not got it, please let me know, or you can take from your classmates. Okay. Before ending the class, I just want to ask you to just think about how the pressure for any of the cycles, how these constant pressure lines look like for it in a TS diagram. Do they, as the entropy increases, do they diverge? Means the difference for the constant pressure, the difference in temperature increases, or do they remain same or decrease? Can anyone say what happens to these constant pressure lines? Means are they diverging towards the right hand side, or do the gap remains same? The way I have drawn is, it shows that it is diverging, but actually what happens? Let us go to this. So this constant pressure line, do they diverge, or do they remains parallel to each other, or do they converge towards the right hand side? What happens?
They diverge.
They diverge. You can find that thermodynamically using thermodynamic relations. Why do they diverge? You can think about it. It's not part of the course, so but you should think about why they diverge. Okay, but just by looking at the cycle, or just by the concept of the Brayton cycle, we can say that they should diverge. Otherwise, we cannot get any work output, net work output. If they remain constant, if they remain parallel, what will be CP T3 minus T4 as compared to CP T2 minus T1? If they remain parallel, T2 minus T1 should be equal to T3 minus T4, right? If they are parallel, just two parallel lines, so the difference always remains same. T3 minus T4 is always equal to T2 minus T1. So always the turbine work output should be equal to turbine work input. Compressor work input. So we will not get any net work output from the cycle if they remain parallel. And if they converge towards the right hand side, turbine work output will actually be lower than the compressor work input. So the concept of Brayton cycle and power generation cannot be used. Only because the constant pressure lines are diverging, we can draw this cycle. We can generate power using this type of cycle. Otherwise, we would have had to devise some other form of the cycle. Okay. So the question still remains: why do they diverge? But we know that they should diverge. Otherwise, this type of cycle cannot exist. Okay. So with this, I will stop the class.